What's cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boob TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. What's cracking, what's cracking, what's cracking? Back with some more Dr. J, Julius Erving content. This one recommended to us from subscriber/supporter Norton Malcontent 8778. And Norton says, The Doctor, a long-form documentary about Dr. J. Well, here we are. So I'm not going to go into a long, sermon about Dr. J's career because I've done it already. So you can go check out our Julius Erving Dr. J playlist to see me talk about Dr. J more. But just want to let y'all know, if you don't know who Dr. J is, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. On his career, he's like, 24 points per game, damn near 9 rebounds, one-time NBA champion, two-time ABA champion, had a very prolific career in the ABA, and people like to forget about that and not bring that up when they talk about his career and what he's been able to do. So, he held the league down, had it on. He was the life support for the league until Bird and Magic came in and, really sent the league forward. But anyway, this is a long documentary. It is about an hour and 10 minutes long. I got my strawberry smoothie. I whipped up in my Magic Bullet, though I prefer Ninja products, but the Magic Bullet was cheaper, and somebody talked me into being more frugal because I didn't need the freaking super expensive Ninja system. But this got the job done. I do like the power in the Ninja better, though. Anywho, I drank too much of it before I started the video. I was supposed to slowly sip this for the next hour and 10 minutes, but it's so damn addicting. Strawberry. I love strawberries. My favorite fruit. Anywho, let's get into it.
What's your most memorable Dr. J move or story?
Probably the camp that he did in Lansing, where he started all the way down at the other end of the court. And he had all the kids stand up and clap. And I ain't lying. I swear to God. That man jumped. It looked like to me from about the top of the key. And he was just in the air. And then it just looked like he just stopped. And he said, come on. You in the air now.
There was a time when history was chronicled by word of mouth, and the stories that were passed down from one generation to the next were called legends. Through the ages, they grew and grew. Today, legend is an overused word. And in the world we live in, where history is recorded in every way you could imagine, they can't really exist anyway. But if you look hard enough, you could still find them out there. Maybe the very last of their kind.
So there's a rumor out there that you can still dunk.
Who's spreading the rumor? Me?
Unless you have the ticket stub to prove it, you probably never saw Julius Erving when he changed the game of basketball. You had to rely on someone else to tell you just how great Dr. J was. The legend's incredible. The real story is even better.
He was Michael Jordan before there was a Michael Jordan.
I think I do try to emulate him.
Everybody wanted to be like the Doctor.
Who's your favorite basketball player?
Dr. J.
Dr. J could do things in today's game guys cannot do.
Oh, my God.
The legend preceded him wherever he went.
Doctor's bad.
You heard it,
Greatest play I've seen in a long time.
but chances were you couldn't see it.
I can't show you how he did it, but believe me, he did it.
Julius jumped over his head.
We always looked at Dr. J as like an alien. He was
the coming of a new age.
Julius truly was a legend, but the entertainment, my friend, is in the style.
Who are you? Are you someone important that we should know about?
I used to play professional basketball.
Oh, did you? Well, you are pretty tall.
Yeah.
So it's not really
I'm actually leaning right now.
I had to do that.
I played for the Nets when they were in Long Island, and 76ers, and a defunct team called the Virginia Squires. My name's Julius Erving.
Julius Erving? That's you? That's not you. Are you Julius Erving, really? Are you really?
Well, it's not Julius Erving, really. It's just Julius Erving. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I haven't even heard of you. How are you?
That's so sweet.
It has been a long time since coming back. Still home. Long Island's always going to be my home. This is Campbell Park right here, under the water tower.
Not saying that the doc needed this, but some people, you know, some players are just so used to everybody knowing who they are. And then you see, you know, people that don't watch basketball or, you know, disconnected from that lifestyle. They're like, who are you? Oh, I heard of you before. You're him? And for some people, that can be humbling for them. Not saying Doctor needed that, but it's such a sweet, wholesome moment when I see things like that happen. By the way, I'm not going to wait till the end of this to give like one big, you know, review or thoughts. I'm just going to, you know, interrupt the video when I need to and say what I need to say, because I'm going to forget things if I wait till the end.
Campbell Park. I mean, it's birthplace of basketball for Julius Erving. I had a window in my bedroom that would look across at the park, and I could look out here and see all the kids playing, especially on the weekends. Building's gone, but the essence of it is still there in my mind.
Julius Winfield Erving II was born on February 22nd, 1950, on Long Island, the middle child of Callie and Julius Sr. His parents divorced when Julius was 3, and 6 years later, his father was killed in a car crash. Callie and her 3 kids lived in a housing project, and Julius's biggest job was looking out for his younger brother, Marvin.
Marvin was smart, very book smart, but, you know, he was the one who always got sick. He had asthma, and he would always break out with rashes. That made me more protective, you know, subbing in for the father's role and, you know, being more than a big brother.
He was a little bookworm, but he was cool. He was, he looked up to Julius.
He was a great little brother to have. I have great memories of him riding on the handlebars of my bike because we were very adventurous. We would take a drop line and fish in the lake and fish for sunfish and bring them home, and Mom would cook them up.
But there was no doubting the brothers' favorite place to play, right outside their door.
Campbell Park was a special place for me. We probably went there every day. I mean, even when it snowed or rained, if it snowed, you shovel snow and you play basketball.
But apparently one morning was just too cold for Julius and his friend Archie. So they got on their bikes to find a place they could play inside.
I was practicing with the basketball team back in 1962. And somebody came in and said, "Down there are 2 young men that would like to speak to you." So I went outside. It was Julius Erving and Archie Rogers. They were both age 12. And they asked me if they could play basketball here at the Salvation Army. And at the time, this area was all white.
Nobody on the team but me and Julius was African American. But we were children, and we didn't feel the racism.
Archie and I, 2 black kids and 10 white kids, and we became a team.
When Julius was 13, his mom moved the family into a house. He played ball at Roosevelt High School, and thanks to his best friend on the team, he'd gained something that would stay with him the rest of his life.
On the court, I made a point to know all the rules. And so, you walked, I was ready to make a call.
If the ball went out off his leg, he'd always make an excuse. You push me, you grab me, you're holding my jersey. I mean, he was like a professor, weighing you down in the lecture hall. So I started calling him Professor.
So I said, well, what do you know? I mean, you're here arguing with me. I mean, what are you, like the doctor? And every time we would see each other, I'd look up to him and I'd say, doctor, professor. And it was just an inside joke.
In those days, everyone else called him Jewel on the court, where he wasn't much more than a good player who went out of his way to blend in.
I remember one time, it was a fast break, and he was in the front of the break, and he stopped to pull up to wait for the rest of us to get down court. And Coach just got up and screamed at him. What are you doing? Bust him!
By his senior year, Julius was only 6'3". He'd become one of his team's best players, but drew little college interest. Only one scout even bothered to see him play.
Here's Julius after I saw him play, and I rated him a 4, which isn't bad, But don't forget now, I'm rating him here as a 6'3.5" forward guard. That's not a bad rating because he had no rating. No one thought he was going to be that good. No one knew he was alive as a player.
But at the playground, Julius was a whole different player.
Everything always went well at the park, especially if you would do things that were a little different than the things that the other kids were doing. I had a lot of tricky stuff around the basket, putting it up left-handed, right-handed, jumping over people.
And one afternoon on the blacktop, the secret of Julius Erving got out for the first time.
He didn't know that I was there. And Julius is coming out on a fast break, and he was at the foul line. And Julius goes up in the air. I closed my eyes because I thought he wasn't going to be able to go that far in the air. But he just glided. And then he dunked on him. That was beyond my imagination. And he acted like it was no big deal.
Coach Wilson had seen enough. He made a call to an old friend who just so happened to be the head coach at the University of Massachusetts. And by the next fall at UMass, others had begun to marvel at the freshman who seemed like he could fly.
A lot of the kids got a chance to start watching him, and they saw what I saw. Julius was a 6'3" jumper that jumped like he was 7 foot. That was the buzz that went around the school.
I had a frequent caller who bombarded me with propaganda about this freshman basketball player at the University of Massachusetts named, quote, Julius Erving.
His basketball career was starting to take off, while his connection with his family stayed strong.
That February, Marvin came up on my birthday. We spent time on campus, in the dorm, and he was complaining about pain in his joints and had a rash. They go home, and he's in the hospital. The doctors were running tests. My mindset is, they're going to get to the bottom of it, it's going to be treatable, and then he'll be all right.
The doctors diagnosed Marvin with lupus, and over the next 3 months, his condition deteriorated.
My mom calls me, and she says, you need to come back home.
He said, I just got a call from Mom, and Marvin's not doing good, and they don't know if he's going to make it through the night. I got to go home. And I said, hey, man, let's go. I'll drive. He was just quiet. He just was thinking about his brother. The trip was generally a 3+ hour trip, and we did it in under 2. We flew. And he, literally jumped out the car and was running up the stairs. His mother was in the room, and, you know, I heard his mother scream and just cry out.
He said, I'm really tired. And, you know, they need to come and get me. And he's talking about the angels. And that was the last thing he said to me. I mean, I go back and, you know, everybody's there at the house, and I just go to our room because I gotta be by myself. The things we had done, those journeys to the park, bicycle rides, you know, all of those things were not gonna happen again. And the finality of that, it's overwhelming. It just seems so unfair. Sometimes when I dream about living in the attic with my brother. So this place has come back to me many, many times, and now I'm back in it. In this bedroom with Marvin, we spent a lot of time planning for the future, but he's always going to be 16, you know? Man plans and God laughs. When I went back to school after his funeral, all I could do is take his spirit with me. So when I line up against an opponent who was only thinking of being one, you know, now I got two spirits in there. I got mine, I got my brother's. I have a slight advantage.
By his junior year, Julius had grown to 6'6" and averaged 27 points and 20 rebounds a game. But the rules restricted his play because at the time, the NCAA still prohibited dunking. He had to save that for the playgrounds. And after the school year was up, he began heading to the most famous playground of them all. Since the 50s, Rucker Park in Harlem had hosted summer tournaments that brought names as big as Wilt Chamberlain and Connie Hawkins to the blacktop to play a version of the game where style was essential to the substance.
The first game you got in on this court here and played like a bum, you was a bum. So when Julius Erving came to Rucker, he could either be known in the basketball world as a great player, or he would have probably figured out a way to deal with his books and keep his grades high.
We played him the first game, and they kept saying, you wait till Julius gets here. You wait till Julius. And I'm like, who's Julius? I'm in the NBA. What I care about Julius?
Tom Hoover had never heard of him. But soon enough, the kid named Julius was doing things that no one at the Rucker would ever forget.
At the baseline, he dunks. So the guy takes the ball out to throw it the length of the court for a fast break. He jumps up in the air and catches the ball and throws it down.
Charlie Scott shot a long shot, and Julius came, took it out of the air, and dunked it.
I took it right there. I said, I don't need to see anything else. This was it.
People here in Harlem, they really know good basketball. And, you know, if you do something real nice, you know, they show their appreciation.
He came down one time. I had the angle on him. He dunked the ball so bad, the ball hit me in the top of the head. My teeth fell out on the ground. The crowd roared. I had scrambled to grab him off the ground and put him back in my mouth. That helped build his reputation.
There was just one thing left for Julius to earn at the Rucker.
They would call him different names, Little Hawk.
He went over to the announcer and said, "I'm not the Little Hawk. That's Connie Hawkins." So then they called him the Claw. Oh, man, the Claw's got the ball going. I was like, I'm thinking, I wonder who he's talking about. He's calling me the Claw. I didn't want to be the Claw. They would call him.
Came back from the future. Got him confused with Kawhi Leonard, who would be named the Claw.
All sorts of names. Oh, what a rebound by Black Moses. Black Moses, what are you talking about? He said, if you want to call me anything, call me the doctor. So you know, they said, well, the doctor is operating tonight.
All of a sudden, Dr. J, Dr. J, Dr. J.
Who's your favorite basketball player?
Dr. J.
Why?
All his moves he do, that's why.
Behind me, up on the roof, is a school. They were all on the roof. He drew the greatest crowd in the history of the Rucker Pro League.
Look at that.
You had people up in the trees, sitting on branches. Everywhere you looked around, there were people.
It wasn't even standing room only. People could not see enough of the game. We had people on the bridges.
This is where the legend of Dr. J started.
It was 1971. For years now, the playground style of basketball had been growing, though you wouldn't have known it from watching an NBA game.
Bradley jumps from 20 and hits.
But the upstart ABA, founded in 1967, was a whole different story.
We played that street kind of ball, you know, where we pushing it up.
Guys get up in the air, they like, oh, let me change it, put it around here. Let me do some of this. Yeah, bam.
We were entertaining. You know, we come down, dunk on you, you know, come down and make a tricky move.
We're playing in a league that endorses discovery.
And there, my friends, is the very dramatic brand of basketball which can be enjoyed only in the ABA.
We always felt the NBA was that old slow-down ball. They come out, run plays. I mean, you know, come on, man. We want to see that.
It was like the NBA was ashamed of dunking, and the ABA embraced it. There wasn't anything like this, and if you loved basketball, you had to love this.
Marius, the big question here is, why did you choose the ABA over NBA?
Well, I like the colors of the basketball.
You like that better?
Yeah.
It wasn't just the red, white, and blue ball that was unconventional. The ABA had the three-point shot, ball girls, and it seemed like any gimmick that would draw more fans into the stands. And maybe the boldest idea of all was how the league attracted players away from its older rival by doing one thing the NBA wouldn't: sign college underclassmen and high school players.
The ABA would take anybody. If you were an 8th grader and they thought you could play, they'd sign you up.
Which led a desperate owner and a desperate league to zero in on the junior from the University of Massachusetts who had torn up the Rucker League.
I was in New York for an ABA meeting, and they mentioned the fact that there was this player up in New England that was so spectacular, Julius Erving, and I'd never heard of him. And they proceeded to extol all the virtues of how great he'd be in professional basketball. And with that conversation, I moved forward to see if I could sign him to a contract.
At this time, I didn't even know who the Virginia Squires were. But my mother probably made $6,000 to $8,000 a year, and I was being offered $125,000 guaranteed for 4 years. You know, the rest was history.
To most of the basketball world, Julius Erving was an athletic young prospect and nothing much more. But Dr. J had found a perfect new venue for his game.
Ain't no stopping me now. Like a bird, I'm flying free. Ain't no ball and chain can keep a hold of me.
He was just shackled. And the minute he got to the ABA, he just, wow!
Dr. J! Super effort.
I developed my own style of play, which is a playground style. It's real loose, a real freelance style.
There's the man, Julius
Julius Erving.
I thought I knew Julius Erving as a basketball player. And then I went and watched some guy they called Dr. J. I never saw this guy before.
And there is Julius Erving. Look at that move behind the back. Oh!
All of a sudden, he's coming in off the foul line. He's coming in off the wings. He's dunking backwards. It was like watching two different players.
Even in the freewheeling ABA, Dr. J dazzled. But if you weren't in the building to witness it, you probably didn't see him in action.
You'd hear that, this guy playing for some team in Virginia, the Squires, was flying through the air. And you're like, what? Who is he?
Most of what we knew about him came from game stories, box scores, maybe a tiny film clip of a given play, and word of mouth. The games just were not televised.
My brother was in the Navy in Virginia, and he kept telling me, this kid Erving, man, he's a bad boy.
I kept getting newspapers sent to me about this great kid named Julius Erving, who was scoring 28, 29 points a game. And I thought to myself, Julius Erving, finally a great Jewish basketball player.
You're hearing these reports, this spectacular, swooping, out of nowhere guy that is just doing things that have never been seen before.
Even the NBA was taking notice and coming hard after him to make the switch, something the ABA couldn't afford to let happen. So after 2 years in Virginia, Squires owner Earl Foreman knew what he had to do.
I was as much concerned with his playing for the ABA almost as I was with his playing for the Squires. And I contacted the owner of the Nets and worked out an arrangement.
In 1973, Foreman sold the league's leading scorer to the New York Nets.
I was in Ocean City, Maryland. I got a call and I said, God, I got to go back to New York now, just on vacation with my kids and family. And they said, well, I said, what's going on? Well, we just got Dr. J. I said, I'll be there in 10 minutes.
The ABA's biggest star was headed to its biggest stage. Julius Erving was going home to Long Island.
New York has always been my home, and I'm very pleased and happy that I'll be able to play out my career here.
This is New York, Long Island's Nassau Coliseum, home of the Nets. It's past the buck night here, a $5.50 ticket for only $1. It's also bread night, a free loaf of bread for every fan. But there are only 9,300 fans who pass the buck here. 9,300 fans to see the second place Nets. 9,300 fans, $9,300 to see the fabulous Julius Erving, the great Dr. J.
Every fan gets a free loaf of bread? That's a hell of a deal. I mean, bread now, comparatively, taking inflation into consideration, I'm sure bread was even much cheaper back then, comparatively, versus, state of the economy and whatnot. But anyway.
Coming back to Long Island, life could not have been better. I mean, it was such great anticipation. Coming to play basketball in the place where I was born and raised. This building was brand spanking new. I mean, the identity of...
That has got to be a great feeling to, build up quite the reputation for yourself and then be able to go home and then represent your home after, all you've went through, after all your growth, your maturity, fine-tuning your skills, becoming a better person, becoming a better player, and then going back home to represent your hometown. The hometown hero's back, better than ever. It's got to be a great feeling.
The Nets now is Brooklyn, but, my time here and my era here, I think was very, very special.
The Doctor debuted in New York in October 1973, instantly transforming his hometown team into a contender, and doing it with a style that could be defined in just one word.
Cool. Dr. J was the epitome of cool. If you look up
The definition of cool in the 1970s, it says, see Julius Erving. And it starts with the afro.
It'd be up there so high. That fro used to, kind of like fly in the back.
Dr. J wasn't just the coolest man in the building, he was the coolest man in the area code, in the state, in the time zone, in the country.
The thing that was so cool about Doc was the size of his hands.
His hands are so big that when he holds a ball, it's like him holding a tennis ball.
If you went up and tried to block it, I mean, he'd just move it over here and slam it down.
So he could do anything with it. And when he would cradle the ball and be like this on a poster, the face sort of went with it. And if you can get the hair up like that at the same time, he was terrifyingly good.
Man, I can't believe that dog. I've never seen one like it.
He became a cult figure. Everywhere we went, all they wanted to do was see Julius.
If you came to see him play, you was gonna leave there shaking your head saying, man, that kid flat out play.
Go on, Doc. I played for a coach who said, you know what? We got this game plan, and it ain't working. You need to do something.
Here's the doctor.
We're playing Kentucky, and Dr. J's on a fast break. And Artis Gilmore, it's a mano-a-mano. He's waiting for Doc. Now, Gilmore, for people that don't know, is 7'2" with a 5-foot afro. Doc flew right over him.
Gilmore's there. The Doc dunks it. What a play.
Whether I was bringing the ball up court or getting it off the board, I was going to determine the outcome of the game.
Erving with the basketball inside the half-court line, goes up. It's a 40-footer, and
In his first season playing just a few miles from where he grew up, Dr. J won the scoring title and his first MVP and carried the Nets to their first championship.
Julius Erving comes back to New York, his hometown, and wins the championship. He couldn't ask for anything more.
He was the king of the ABA, and life was also good off the court.
It was a beautiful time. I mean, I have a wife and I have 2 sons. And I'm very happy, very excited about the prospects for the future with a woman who I adore and who I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And basketball seemed to be taking care of itself.
But while the next season brought another MVP award as the doctor continued to soar,
Look at Julius.
all around him, the league was still struggling to lift its own fortunes.
Dude, his ability to just palm that ball and just do things with it, it's just like, he ain't even looking at the basket. Basket over there, he over there. He's just like, by the way, as I'm in the air and I look into the crowd, I'm just going to lay this basketball into the hoop. Don't mind me. Okay, time to land. Jeez.
There was always that challenge of being the other league, not having the major television contract, not getting the notoriety.
We were the NBA. We had the greatest franchises. We had the greatest players. The ABA was good basketball. It was fun basketball, but it wasn't the NBA.
The war between the leagues was now nearly a decade old, and the ABA was losing.
By 1975, the American Basketball Association was a little bit like the Titanic after it hit the iceberg, kind of listing to the left and taking on water.
There was a race. One that had the fastest car was probably going to get their checks cashed first. As soon as they gave you a check, you rushed to the bank to make sure that the check was clear.
We played at Utah one night, and we got to go to San Diego to play the next night, and all of a sudden, we can't go because San Diego folded.
The ABA needs a profitable network television contract. It can't get that as the league now exists without merging with the NBA. So that means the alternatives for this league is consolidation or collapse.
It sometimes seemed like the only thing breathing life into the ABA was his signature star.
No matter how tired he was, he always had time for any reporter, anybody that wanted part of his time, he had time for them. He understood and felt the obligation that he had to try to help keep this league afloat.
And nothing the doctor did would be more memorable than All-Star Weekend in 1976, when the ABA dreamed up another gimmick perfectly suited for his gifts.
Good evening, everyone. This huge record-breaking crowd here at McNichols Arena about to bear witness to one of the most spectacular events in professional basketball, the slam dunk contest.
The field included the highest flyers in the league. But even they knew there was only one guy to watch.
For the New York Nets, the fabulous Dr. J. Julius Erving.
I was going up against Doc. I ain't have a chance. I knew I ain't have a chance.
And now the doctor goes to work. Unbelievable.
With each dunk that night, the show got better and better. And the greatest of them all will become a piece of basketball lore.
Dr. J measured off from the foul line, then went back to midcourt.
I didn't know what he was going to do, to be honest with you. He took off running with those short shorts, and his afro was blowing in the wind.
Just before the free throw line, he takes off, and bam!
And that sends everyone reeling. Julius Erving.
Before that, no one had seen that. First came the stunned silence, the gasp of disbelief, and then the roar of approval.
And the winner, Julius Erving.
It was bigger than I think what anybody thought it was going to be. You know, because 2013, we still talking about it. So now how special was that?
By that 1976 season, I
always say he could have took another step and a half, maybe 2 steps back, and still finished that dunk. By the time he stepped a little bit over the line, but he was still so high up there. He flushed that with ease.
The NBA was on its last legs, eventually shrinking down to 7 teams.
Erving. Unbelievable.
But Dr. J was still flying high, capturing his 3rd scoring title, his 3rd MVP, and leading the Nets back to the finals, where they faced the talented Denver Nuggets.
We had 4 great players. We had Dan Issel, Bobby Jones, Ralph Simpson, Marvin Webster, myself. But they had Dr. J.
He gets it over to the doctor. Tie ball game. Here's a shot. Julius. He scores! He scores at the buzzer, and the Nets win. Julius Erving finishes up with 45 points and a shocked, stunned crowd.
Dr. J was amazing. Bobby Jones is the greatest defensive player ever to play the game, and Dr. J.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure it's Bobby Jones guarding him. It's one of the more elite defenders in the game. I've done a video on this channel before on Bobby Jones. Go look it up. SecDef, Secretary of Defense.
His weight.
There is Julius Erving, and he has been the take charge guy.
We knew where the ball had to go, but no one had a problem with it. He just played tremendous.
Look at Julius. Oh, my goodness.
He averaged almost 40 points a game, 15 rebounds, a lot of assists. He was really the difference in that series.
Everybody's hugging, and he poured champagne all over my head. Oh, it was just a tremendous celebration.
It's as sweet as it ever was. I tell you, now hopefully we've started something that we can keep on and win some more championships in the years to come. And we're going to enjoy this one right now. Have a little champagne.
Good party. Then it was done. Then it was done.
Let me say good morning to everybody. How are you doing? I'm Julius Erving. Haven't been in this building in a long time, but it's kind of nice to be here.
In the summer of 1976, pro basketball's 2 leagues at long last came together, with the NBA absorbing 4 ABA franchises, including the New York Nets. But in a cruel twist, Nets owner Roy Bowe owed his new league millions of dollars in entrance fees and couldn't afford to keep the superstar who had kept his team and his league alive for so long.
I kept telling Roy Bowe, you can't do this. I mean, we're never going to be able to replace this guy. It's like selling Babe Ruth to the Yankees.
I called Billy Melchione, and I did ask him, is Julius Erving available? And Billy said no. 2 weeks later, Billy called back and he said, Julius Erving is available. I immediately called our new owner, F. Eugene Dixon, and he said, tell me, Pat, who is Julius Erving? I said, well, let me just describe him as the Babe Ruth of basketball.
Julius, I welcome him with open arms to the Philadelphia scene.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
Great to have you with us.
The doctor had finally arrived in the NBA, but by now, all of pro basketball had seen better days.
In '76, we needed help. The two leagues had battered each other to pieces, and the league was not healthy.
After the epic Celtic dynasty of the 60s and transcendent stars and teams of the early 70s, basketball had seemed poised for a golden age. But instead, the perception of the sport had changed dramatically.
The league was viewed as having too many African Americans, being at the heart of drug issues, players being overpaid.
In the 70s, people were afraid of all these things. White folks didn't know what to make of it. And sponsors didn't know what to make of it. Do I want to be associating my brand with this?
And now there was an influx of new players from the league that glorified the playground.
Letting in the sideshow of the ABA. Our business may have been bad, but the stubborn fans of the NBA said, well, we don't need those guys because they're not playing a real brand of basketball.
But there was an undeniable curiosity about the biggest star of all making his debut.
I want to see Julius Erving more than I've ever wanted to see any athlete in my life, because you'd heard so much, and he was supposed to be so different.
I think everybody was saying, show us. Show us. How good are you really?
From UMass to Rucker Park, Virginia to Long Island, the exploits of Dr. J had long been a tall tale more than anything else. And now, in Philadelphia, he was about to prove that the hype was real.
Look at Julius Erving. Watch this. There. The doctor. Oh, brother.
Where'd this guy come from? Look at what he does out on the court. My God, there was nobody like him.
That's incredible.
Doctor's bad.
Doctor is cold-blooded. He worked a cold-blooded operation.
Julius was like that bird coming in on the wing, swooping in, dunking on people. It was just something to see.
The doctor with his magic show.
When you finally got to see this guy play, it felt like someone was giving you a gift.
And Julius swoops to the middle.
Oh my gosh. Did he just do that? Really, did he just do that?
House call. Erving with the good shot.
I'm guarding him. And we were in Philadelphia at the time.
Here's the doctor. Everybody up in the spectrum.
All of a sudden, I see 18,000 people start to rise to their feet, and I'm thinking like, oh, something bad is about to happen here.
Can go for the tie now. Erving maneuvers in. Julius has got it. That is the biggest play of the game.
You would go back in high school and college and tell your teammate, did you see Dr. J yesterday? You didn't even remember what the score was. Did you see the moves that he put on?
Doc just picked the ball up with one hand without even touching it with the other one, and windmilled this ball like his arms stretched from over here all the way like a rubber band.
Damn.
The crowd went crazy.
I can't believe that play.
Me and Darryl Dawkins over there. Oh my! Oh, we knew it was basketball then.
Have you ever seen anyone better than him?
No, I haven't.
He was the first guy I ever saw with air brakes. Air brakes. He was going to the basket straight, and all of a sudden, he said...
That's saying a lot coming from Darryl Dawkins. If you don't know who Darryl Dawkins is, he's one of the best dunkers in his era, especially. Chocolate Thunder, baby. Darryl Dawkins used to have a nickname for every one of his dunks. Chocolate Dropper, Big Boom on a Big Boom Zoom. The hammer hit the hammer from hell, whatever he was named. He had a name for every dunk Darryl Dawkins did.
It started going sideways.
I was like, you know, somewhat like a girl. Oh, Doc, oh. Never saw that before.
The NBA had never seen a player like Dr. J or a team like the 76ers, whose supporting cast included George McGinnis, Doug Collins, and a brash pair of youngsters.
Look at Doug Collins.
And they all played like stars.
Yeah, world beat three who never met a shot he didn't like. And here I am. If you give it to me, I'm shooting it. When our team, first guy got it, shot it. We play street ball.
They are the Philadelphia 76ers, the greatest collection of individual talent ever assembled on one basketball team.
And it would be the most talented player of all who changed his game for the good of the group.
Pat Williams, who was the GM, clearly said, look, we're going to be a better team. We don't need a guy to score 30 every night. We don't need a guy to dominate every night. We got stars on our team, and I accepted that.
So many people ask, when will the real Dr. J show? So it doesn't bother you the two guys you beat out in scoring in the ABA, Gervin and Thompson, have now passed you in the NBA.
Well, scoring is an individual statistic, and I think the objectives of the team are the things that have to be paramount and have to come first.
He didn't want to rock the boat. He was too nice a man to say, hey, I'm Dr. J, you know?
But it worked. As the Sixers made it to the NBA Finals to play their polar opposites, the Portland Trail Blazers.
We represented the team game, making the other people better.
The 1977 Finals were almost a morality play in the eyes of a lot of people. This was the basketball world, the old world, taking a stand against these invaders and protecting the women and children from these crazy people.
And as the series began, it was best to hide the women and children.
Goes to McGinnis, quickly to the doctor.
The doctor reemerged as if to show the basketball world who its best player was once and for all.
Irving to the basket. The doctor came through.
Portland's team concept looked to be no match for Irving's individual brilliance, as the Doc powered the Sixers to a 2-0 series lead.
Irving, does he have time? He's airborne.
But late in game 2, everything would change.
Bill Dawkins and Maurice Lucas. It's Dawkins and Lucas. Dawkins and Lucas. Jack Ramsey pushing Dawkins. And now they pull Lucas back. Ramsey is out there.
There was a division created by that fight, and Portland used it as a rallying cry. Portland pulled together, and we pulled apart.
Davis cuts, takes a beautiful pass.
Portland knew how to wait for the guy to come off, pass the ball.
Another great pass by Walton.
Wherein we were, hey man, get over there and get the ball. What's wrong with you? I ain't passing to you no more. It was a big difference.
The Blazers stormed back to take the next 3 games of the series.
Sequence for the Blazers. Once again, twice at the basket.
The reeling Sixers faced elimination in Game 6. And the Doc responded with a finals performance for the ages.
Walton there, Irving there. They meet at the top.
Well, that's just two great players going against one another, and Julius won that battle.
Julius roaring to the basket.
And Julius is unbelievable.
He never stopped coming at you. And there was just one moment where I thought I had him.
The doctor out of there in a hurry.
I love this play here. The dribble move, in and out.
With 40 points, Irving carried the Sixers all night long. But in the closing seconds, they needed a basket to tie the score.
109-107, Philadelphia with possession.
We go to the huddle and, you know, guys are saying that they can beat their man.
Philly coach Gene Shue would call the final play for George McGinnis.
Here we go, the inbound of McGinnis. Drive, stop, punch, shoot, short, no good, and the game is over! The Portland Trail Blazers have won the World Championship.
When the game comes down to the very end, how can you not get the freaking ball in his hands?
When the game was over, the doc said, going over there to the other room and congratulate them guys. And I looked at Darryl like, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm like, did you say you can go over there and congratulate these guys? I want to go over there and fight. And he said, yeah, we're going to go over there, you know, and congratulate these guys. And we did. We did.
Even in defeat, Erving's performance had been unforgettable.
Even though the Trailblazers won that series, by the time that finals was played, Julius Erving was the star of the NBA.
And for the remainder of the 70s, that star would rise higher than ever.
Every time he came to town, that was the game to be at, the game where Julius Erving was playing.
Playing against Dr. J is Woodstock.
Gonna tell you the story about Dr. J. He's taking his team all the way. He leads them through the NBA's.
You know, when a phenomenon happens, a phenomenon happens.
He can do it in the slam.
It seemed like every Sunday you were on national TV playing somebody because people wanted to see the doctor.
All right, now we have Julius Erving with us. Doc's been playing.
He was carrying the weight of the league on his shoulder. He realized he was an ambassador for the league. He was the ultimate ambassador for the league.
The NBA supports Special Olympics. Why don't you?
He was so senatorial. He was so gracious. There was nobody like the man known as Dr. J.
Even as great as he is now, he's going to be greater.
Julius, thank you very much, John. Appreciate that.
It was always like Julius was so cool. The language was like, you know, indubitably.
These rings are significant because they represent important associations.
I remember I was so happy as a young black man who cared about language and presentation and image that Julius Erving.
I'm going to pause right there because I was literally about to pause anyway before Mike Wilbon started talking about this. Is that I was literally going to say the first time I heard Dr. J talk, it was just, and maybe I was ignorant and naive for thinking anything differently, but I did not expect him to talk like that. I did not expect him to be just so damn articulate and professional in his demeanor. It just wasn't it's not what I expected. And I ain't saying he was going to be coming talking like, hey, dog, what up, dog? Hey, what you doing, man? Hey, what up? I ain't saying all that, but I didn't expect him to come off like that. And I was like, damn, man, this is a classy gentleman. Like, I'm drinking this with my pinky up now. I was just like Dr. J style. Masterpiece of theater. Like, I could see Dr. J sitting in that chair with that robe and a book, like masterpiece of theater.
Sounded the way he sounded.
Say, hey, Dr. J, where'd you get those moves? You move with such grace. Are you a member of the human race?
Major corporations decided that they wanted this guy to endorse their product. The idea that a black guy would be the face of a national brand, that was really radical.
After years of underground stardom, Dr. J's popularity had exploded with a universal appeal that was unprecedented.
I remember a lady saying, I would want my kids to grow up and be like the doc. And these were white people. They were, you know, doc blacker than me. You know what I mean? These were white people. They were like, I want my kids to grow up and be like this man. And I was like, wow, man, that's awesome. That's some serious stuff right there.
Yeah, it's awesome. Should never be any racial barriers, but you know how it was, especially back then.
As the 1980s dawned, the journey that had begun in the Long Island housing project had taken Julius Erving to a Philadelphia mansion.
Hi, Daddy. How you doing, guys?
Hey, Dad.
The station wagon.
He and his wife Turquoise now had 4 children as they welcomed daughter Jasmine and son Corey to the family.
Dunk. Corey. Boom. Yay! Yeah.
We're having a lot of discussion in our house about, you know, the Kennedys who we admired. And from an African-American perspective, I mean, we wanted to be that type of family. And we were on what I thought was a pretty good course.
Julius was every player's role model. So when the biggest college star in the country wanted some advice about leaving school early, there was only one person he wanted to talk to.
I got him on the phone. I said, I'm trying to turn pro, thinking about it. You know, what's the pros and cons? And he said, look, come on out to Philly, and you can stay with me for the weekend. And I'm like, what? So I couldn't wait to get off the phone, telling all my friends, I'm going to Philly. I'm going to stay at Dr. J's house.
Back on the court, Dr. J was now the captain of a Sixers team that had been rebuilt around him. And while he no longer had his fro, he still had plenty of game.
Irving is absolutely magnificent.
In 1980, the Sixers returned to the finals to face the Los Angeles Lakers and the Doctor's former house guest.
Here's Julius.
The Doctor was in peak form as the Sixers fought to split the series' first 4 games. And he was never more breathtaking than on a play late in Game 4.
Man, he did a move, which is the all-time greatest move I've seen.
Magic and I were sitting there, and we were sitting right on the baseline. And when Dr. J left his feet, he didn't know what he was going to do.
When we cut him off baseline, he started walking in there. Got the ball in one hand. And we said, wait a minute, he's got to come down. There's no way he can stay in the air that long.
84 Sixers, and they get inside.
Magic Johnson's Lakers has been the recipient of 2 all-time breathtaking aerial legendary displays, one by Dr. J and one by Michael Jordan later in the 90s.
Unbelievable! Julius Erving's fantastic move by the Doctor. Julius in the air, palm of the right hand, floating, reaching, and spinning it in.
Cooper and I said, should we ask him to do it again? We've never seen anything like that before. It was crazy.
I didn't realize how long I had been in the air, but I knew I didn't have any legs left and I didn't have any hang time left, so I fell on the floor. Just another move.
Julius had again left a mark like none other.
That is a pretty lady. Y'all know I love my ladies from the 80s and 70s too. Definitely my ladies from the 80s, baby. That girl in the orange shirt there, that's a pretty lady. I gotta rewind, sorry. Love my ladies. Let's bring it back right about here. Still started here. Let's go.
But I didn't have any hang time left, so I fell on the floor.
That's a gorgeous lady from the 80s, baby.
Just another move.
Whoever you are. Her right there.
Julius had again left a mark like none other. But a few nights later, back in Philadelphia, it was Magic who upstaged the Doctor in the Game 6 clincher.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. He starts at center, plays forward and guard.
Magic played every position, and they won a road game in Philadelphia that broke our hearts.
From the time Julius arrived in Philadelphia, any year we didn't win a title was a failure.
1980 had marked the 4th season with Julius, and without a championship.
How many more IOUs are out there? We owed you 1, we owed you 2. When the hell are they going to win something here?
In 1981, Doc would be the league's MVP, but come up short again in the playoffs. This time to Larry Bird and the Celtics.
The one thing that had eluded Julius was winning a championship in the NBA. And here he was, now taking a back seat to Magic Johnson out in Los Angeles and Larry Bird up in Boston.
So many would say, well, you won in the ABA. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. That was a minor league. You got to win over here.
At the end of the day, if you win a championship as an NBA player, it's on your chest forever. If you don't, you're always viewed as not quite a champion.
In 1982, the Sixers would follow Julius back to the finals again. And again, they'd lose to the Lakers.
The Lakers are the world champions.
There's only so many times you can get near the top of the mountain and then not get over. Because if you're the man, you have got to be the man and overcome everything.
Yeah.
There was great doubt that Julius would ever get it done. A lot of folks around the league began to say, great start,
not going to win a championship.
I had a sense that the window was closing, and there's nobody to blame. You look in the mirror first, you say, what could I have done differently?
Sure.
But there was another viewpoint on Dr. J's inability to win it all. That it didn't all fall on his shoulders.
It's not how good you are, it's how good your team is. And Dr. J's team just wasn't good enough.
One of the things that, we learned and that Boston obviously learned is that every single year you got to compliment your stars by getting other players. I mean, you can't just have one guy. He needed a little bit of help.
You know what's next.
They needed to get somebody with Julius. And they got the right man at the right time. A fella by the name of Moses
Malone, baby.
Like Julius, Moses had started in the ABA. And now, the dominant inside force would be Doc's partner in another chase for a title.
Moses Malone was a beast. Go check out our Moses Malone playlist right here on this channel. We cover Moses too.
In thinking about Moses, that's a dimension that I've never played with in a 12-year career.
And here comes Philly. Moses Malone.
Oh, look at that pass.
They just complemented each other's talents so well.
Julius, a dump off to Moses Malone, who bullies his way to the hole.
In the 1982-83 season, the Sixers would have far and away the league's best record.
That goes up and jams to the kid.
If they won by 25, it was a bad night, and just crushing teams.
And while Moses Malone ended up as Philly's top scorer, Dr. J still led the team in highlights. And none would be more memorable than a late season breakaway against LA.
You know that one.
I was there when he had that famous dunk against the Lakers. Literally stole the ball right in front of me.
It's going to be stolen by the Doctor.
Afraid of that, John.
Here he comes. Way rocks the baby to sleep and slam dunk. And the Doctor made a sensational play.
I can't explain it. It was just like this intense release of emotion. It was incredible.
Love that dunk, man.
It was one of those moments as a kid that's just tattooed in my memory.
The Doctor made a sensational play. Rocked the baby and put it to sleep.
When Dr. J broke down the sideline, I was like, okay, this is my chance to make a great play against a great player. But that didn't happen, so I just said, let me duck my head and get out of the way.
Cooper just ducked.
The greatest dunk of all time. And you know what? If you're going to get dunked on by anyone, why not let it be the best in the game?
The Sixers and Lakers would meet again in the NBA Finals. And Philly, for a change, was not only the favorite, but also the sentimental choice.
We had everybody against us. The world was against us. I've never seen the country want to cheer for one guy, because what he had meant to the league and what he had done for the game of basketball.
There was barely ever any doubt as Doc and the Sixers swept Los Angeles.
The Philadelphia.
There's always that one guy, right? You've seen him get to the top or, close, work their way to the top and then fall short, right? Couldn't mount their flag at the top of the mountain. And then they just keep falling short. They keep falling short. And then it becomes like, that's the guy that you root for, man. You want to see him get one. We've seen other players, go through it like that similarly. Most recently, when the Phoenix Suns and Chris Paul went to the finals, a lot of people, they're like, I just want to see Chris Paul get a ring. I want to see CP3 win. Now, I didn't, being a Giannis Antetokounmpo Milwaukee Bucks guy, I did not want to see Chris Paul get a ring. I was like, Bucks all the way. By the way, I actually went to that championship. I was at the game. I was at the championship game where Giannis dropped 50 points and won the trophy.
76ers finally champion.
It was such a relief. Like a brick that was sitting over your head waiting to hit you and suddenly went the other way and now it wasn't there anymore.
Only in Super Mario World.
Dr. J, Julius Erving, this has to be a great, great night for him.
I saw like the jubilation on his face, just like relief. Just, we did it. We finally did it.
He deserved it. Even though we would have loved to beat him again, we would have loved to keep him in that pain.
no doubt about it.
You know, those skeletons out of there.
Yeah.
But you give those who really deserve it their just due when it's time.
There you go, Bill.
I just remember I hugged him as tight as I've ever hugged anyone in my life. I was so happy for him.
Stay close together, Doc.
Because if there was ever a player that deserved to have that one little piece that he was missing for his legacy, he had it now.
At long last, Julius Erving was an NBA champion.
It wasn't quite that easy. Because I've been trying to get here for 7 years.
Julius was no longer the kid with the crazy hair.
Was that the championship celebration? I don't think I've ever seen one be held in an NFL stadium. It's actually quite genius. That's a lot of people.
Who changed the game. He was 33 now, old for a basketball player, even though on most nights you never know it. But a new era had begun in the NBA, and he'd never get a chance at another title. And as the years continued to roll by, the final question in the career of Julius Erving was how long would it last? And in the fall of 1986, he let everyone know.
Quite simply, I just notified the 76ers that I intended this to be my last year in the NBA. And one of the main reasons why was because I've been constantly asked this for the last 3 years.
His timing would give fans and players across the league a chance to express their thanks.
We had to admire this man's athletic ability, and above and beyond all of that, the man's class.
It was like being around royalty. An elder statesman type class, dignity. It was pretty cool.
Now, Julius Erving was a major part in Charles Barkley's life. Really was a mentor to Charles Barkley. And Charles really looked up to him in many ways.
A most respected and admired adversary whose great skill and competitive play has entertained so many for so long on the Boston parquet.
But no tribute was more emotional than the honor he received from his old ABA team.
He was the ABA. He revitalized the NBA. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. J.
It's it for Julius Erving. Where does he rank and what kind of company? I don't know. Maybe Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, Joe DiMaggio, people like that.
Dr. J had left the court, but even without him, you didn't have to look hard to see his likeness.
That was for the fans.
I love that one. Ooh,
but
Clyde,
the real Julius stayed out of the limelight, making special appearances now and then, as the next generation of superstars made sure to pay their respects.
Uh-oh, he's measuring off the free throw line. Michael is backing all the way to the middle of the backcourt.
Now the crowd lets you know what they think of it.
I didn't know what to do. Then all of a sudden, I found the guy who started it all. Dr. J was sitting over there, he was looking at me, and he pointed, like going back and do the free throw line.
The modern game Dr. J had shaped soared to new heights in his retirement and became a global phenomenon. But Julius Erving would return to the headlines in the spring of 2000, and not for a reason he or anyone else could have ever imagined.
Nearly a month ago, Dr. J, Julius Erving's youngest son, Corey, was missing. He went out to buy bread for a cookout and did not come back. How do you live with this every day, Julius?
It's the parents' worst nightmare.
This is day 26 for us.
Basketball great Julius Erving is offering a reward for help in locating his 19-year-old son.
I never heard about this. This is my first time hearing about this. What the hell?
5 weeks go by. You're helpless. It was controlling our lives. This was it. This was the only thing that mattered.
I just want him to come home or somebody to let us know what happened to him.
And we're holding on and hoping that he's going to turn up.
Sad news this morning, a tragic discovery in Florida where authorities announced they believe they have recovered the body of basketball legend Julius Erving's missing son.
Why do I not remember this? And I would have had to hear about this. I lived in Florida. I was in Florida in the year 2000. I know it had to be all over the news. I just don't remember. So I can't believe it's my first time hearing about it. I've heard about it before. I just have no recollection of it. But man, this is so sad.
Searchers found Corey Erving's car submerged in a pond near the Erving family home.
There's a little deja vu. I lost my brother when I was 19.
Damn.
Now Corey was 19.
Detectives say they believe the son of basketball legend Julius Erving simply took a fatal turn on his way home.
It's like your guts are being ripped out. There's an emptiness. It was the worst thing that ever happened in my life. The toll on our family was insurmountable.
A child should never go before their parents. Sad.
Everybody dealt with it differently. And I think the way that my dad deals with most things in his life is the way that he dealt with my brother passing, in that you gotta pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and carry on with life. And my mom wasn't prepared to do that.
It became very, very difficult for us to relate to one another after that fact, and it wasn't a long period of time before we went our separate ways.
Wow. Kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
I'm amazed when I see people 40 and 50. They haven't lost anybody. Obviously, I can't relate to that, but I might not be as strong an individual as I am and have had the ability to endure the hard times without those tragedies having happened.
Anybody that would spend time with him would never imagine the loss that he's dealt with. But he has a positive spirit and energy. And as far as it relates to that legacy that is him, I think he's still creating it. I don't think it's done yet.
There's something called essence. And essence, I think, is, how you want people to feel about you. It's not that important that the whole world knows who I am and knows what I did. That's not how I function. To me, I like to keep the carrot out in front of me. I like to think that the best day of my life, the best time of my life is is yet to come.
He glances in the mirror and looks forward. Everyone else sees him and looks back. It's just one more contrast in the life of Julius Erving. Just one more complication of the impact of Dr. J, the singular performer and consummate teammate, the coolest superstar who ever lived, the father and brother forever grappling with loss, the pioneer who could get lost in history, the icon who so many still hold on to.
The way in which commentators and journalists talked about this guy, Dr. J, was so much reverence. I'm like, I want to be Dr. B. You know, I was a kid, but I don't know that I'd be Dr. Boyd today were it not for Dr. J.
You rock the baby and put it to sleep.
Your hero is someone who inspires you. I look at that dunk. My wife thinks I'm crazy because I start to get a little teary-eyed. She's like, you're crazy. I go, this is what has helped me, you know, achieve what I've achieved growing up in Philly and watching the great Dr. J.
Everyone's got highlights. But after all of these years, you still go, wow.
Who could have told that he would become one of the greatest players and people to ever step onto a basketball court? And will always be, no matter who comes behind him.
That man is universally loved. This magnificent performer who had the ultimate gift. He made people happy.
He helped young players like Larry and I understand that we had to be more than just a basketball player. When greatness meets class, that's what God created in Dr. J.
I think he changed the game in ways that a lot of people don't really talk about. The simple fact, if you ever hear Michael Jordan talk, he always say he looked up and aspired to be like Dr. J. So if there's no Dr. J, then, you know, Mike would have never had someone to look up to. And if there was no Mike, then, you know, it's guys like myself who looked up to Mike.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see much of Dr. J when I was a kid. And really didn't see the true creative player that a lot of people have spoken about. But when he left the game, he left with a lot of class and a lot of dignity and that respect from their peers. And that's something that if I don't even win a world championship or MVP or whatever, that is something I would love to walk away from the game and have.
There was a time in basketball, not even that long ago, when you weren't able to see the most exciting player in the world night after night on the court. So news got around by word of mouth, and tales were passed down from one generation to the next. So it's important to keep the greatest story of that era alive. That way, the legend can live forever.
This is awesome. That was an incredible documentary. That was beautifully done, from the storytelling to the word of mouth, the testimony, everything done proper timeline, chronologically. The cinematography was great. The pacing was great. Just so well done. One of the best documentaries I've ever seen. If you didn't know anything about Dr. J, if you didn't know who the hell Dr. J was, if you didn't understand why Dr. J was such an important figure in basketball, past basketball, into modern basketball, what he did for the league, the ABA, and the NBA, well, you know now. If you didn't know, now you know. damn, man, everything, man. They covered. I can't believe. I mean, I wouldn't know what they missed because I don't know everything about Dr. J. But that was a lot. That was a lot. It was a beautiful documentary. Well done. I have nothing else to say, man. I said what I said, and you know, I thought I was sad. I'm assuming when they said that after the tragic loss of his son, that they couldn't really relate to each other anymore. So I guess that meant him and his wife separated, which is really sad. And I'm sure just not the loss of their son had to deal with that, because you would think it would bring people together, but obviously I'm sure there are some other issues, marital issues, or whatever the case may be, family issues that had something to do with it. And I don't know what his relationship is like with his other children. I know nothing about his personal life, and like everything that I watched in this documentary was pretty much my first time getting a whiff of his personal life. And it looked like he had a beautiful family, man. Even though they're not together, still family. You know what I mean? Yeah. Y'all let me know what you think about it. Okay, if you want to add more context, please. I would love to hear it. Drop it in the comment section, and I appreciate y'all. Thanks for hanging out for this documentary. And take care, be blessed, and I'll catch you on the next one. We out, baby.